Cam Coleman is positioned to pop off after spring break.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We are dapping it up this Wednesday with Montgomery radio legend, Darrell Dapprich. And Darrell, there are so many players that Auburn could see just absolutely pop off after spring break. We got a little appetizer of spring, 2 quick practices, no full pads or anything like that. We get a spring break, a week off to kind of let things marinate. There are a list, and we're going to tell you our top 5 guys. We combined the list together, our top 5 guys that could pop off for the Auburn Tigers after spring break. And look, we got to start with Cam Coleman, a guy who took a lot of reps with the 2s, so we were told last week. I would not be shocked if we start seeing Cam Coleman rotate with the 1s more and more a little bit every single day moving forward.
Yeah, I think the only reason why he was with the 2s is because he's learning the routes.
Yeah. Right.
I typically don't buy into the hype of a freshman that hasn't even stepped foot on campus yet, or not stepped foot on campus, hasn't played a snap of college football yet. And I am myself falling into the kind of thought process of cannot wait to see this guy play. I'm usually like a wait and show me kind of guy, and yeah. I'm booging. I'm buying into all the hype. When I saw the footage of him catching from the jugs machine, working extra, putting in extra time. If the only thing he has to do to get to the level he needs to get to start running with the 1s is learn the playbook, then sign me up. I mean, I'm buying in to the hype. I try to get myself a little bit reserved and not get there. I'm there. I really believe and truly believe that Auburn fans next fall are going to see something from the wide receiver position, from an outside wide receiver position, that they haven't seen for a very, very long time. I'm buying into the hype, and I typically don't, but I'm feeling it right now.
Yeah, I love that he's putting in the work on over spring break. The video you're referring to, if folks didn't see it, the video was taken from, I guess, the perspective of a trainer or whoever's working him out, and they're firing a football out of the jug machine, and he's acting like he's running. He's just one-handing these balls over and over and over. Impressive stuff, man. Impressive stuff.
I'm glad you clarified that. Glad you clarified that, because I said jugs gun, which is a real thing, but that's what they measure miles per hour by. So okay. I got
didn't even notice.
Apologize for that. Jugs machine, boys and girls. And it's, it comes out pretty quick. And that's the good thing about that. You can simulate elite arm talent with a jugs machine. And he was making all kind of that speaks volumes to me, Zach, that a guy's doing that in his off time and wanting to get better. You combine work ethic with the physical tools that God gave him. And again, I cannot help but get really, really excited.
Yeah. So Cam Coleman is our number 1 guy on this list of players that could totally take a huge step after this spring break into their second week of spring practice next week. The number 2 guy on our list will stay on the offensive side of the ball, Percy Lewis. And, he looks the part, right? Like, he is a ginormous human being. That's been well stated over and over and over again. Even quarterback Hank Brown said it on yesterday's show, and it's hard to argue that fact. But we talk about how good he looks, and we've got more tape on him than these incoming freshmen, just because he's done it at the SEC level at Mississippi State. But I want to see him do it with pads on, where other guys, he's got to block guys going full speed, going up against Keldrick Falk or going up against Jalen McLeod. I want to see him do it. He passes the eye test right now, but if he straps it on and they say, wow, he's even better than we thought, he's going to be great, the stock for Percy Lewis will continue to go up.
Biggest thing I'm excited about is a lot of time Auburn has done really well in recruiting offensive linemen that are road graders, that are really good at run blocking.
Yeah.
Percy Lewis's specialty was, I guess his PFF grade was elite as far as number of sacks allowed. I talked to a guy that is familiar with the Mississippi State staff, hated losing him. Said he was their best pass rush protector. on that team, on that offensive line. That's a pretty big statement. You come right over, and if he plays left tackle, we already know, we've talked about it before, what vulnerable side that's protecting of whoever the quarterback is. So he does a good job run blocking too, but it's been a long time since Auburn's had that elite pass protector, pass pro guy. And I think that's what it's got me most encouraged by as well with Lewis.
Yeah, I think so. And we all kind of assume he will be able to help in the running game. Can he help in the passing game? I think so. That is not a guy I'm really particularly worried about. I thought what he did at Mississippi State last year was pretty impressive. I do think some of the blocking schemes and stuff will be different because it's a different scheme, it's a different system.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the guys that he's going to be asked to block, the whole RPO for a tackle is going to be a little bit interesting because, you can't go downfield on some of these calls just in case the pass part of the RPO is decided upon by the quarterback. So that may take an adjustment. I don't think it's anything crazy, but there will be a mental aspect of this that Percy's going to have to adjust to. Not concerned about it, but that will be part of the process this offseason for him.
I think he's probably top 2, maybe top 3 as far as importance of additions to the portal. When Britton left, there was a huge void there, and I was very encouraged and excited by Lewis because, again, he had a lot of options. You could have went to a lot of places.
Who would you put above him as far as important addition? We're talking transfers, transfers here. Okay.
Yeah. I have him 2. I'm trying to think.
Who's above him?
Just drawing a blank. Was it somebody?
I think Antonio Kite is up there. I don't think I put him above Percy though.
Let me tell you why I had Kite above Percy. Thank you for reminding me. Is because I thought Kite was going to be so important because he was going to enable Scott to move back inside.
Yeah.
So that's why not only
really happening yet or not.
But we don't know if that's really happening. But I think initially when I had this, thought process was that Kite slot him in as a starter, makes Scott go inside, and so it becomes doubly important. That's why. But you could say the same thing about Lewis allowing Wade to go to the guard position. Really, I mean, why? Yeah. So again, it makes 2 positions stronger.
Yeah, and I wonder.
Thompson was the other guy. I had 1A and 1B. I really am high. Yeah, I'm really high. I think he's a plug and play starting safety, and Auburn needed that.
Yeah. All right. So the next 3 guys on our list, or of our top 5 guys that could take a big step after spring break, they're all defenders. They're all defensive players. Will they surprise you? I don't know. We'll discuss that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best way to buy tickets for whatever event you want, whether it's sports, whether it's a concert, whether it's the theater, comedy. They've got it all over at the Game Time app. I'm actually using tickets that I got through the Game Time app to go to a show up in Birmingham tomorrow, Darrell, to go see a show that my wife and some of her friends wanted to go see. So we're all driving up there. Great deal. The Game Time app. I know exactly what to expect because we saw what the view looked like from our seats, and you've used Game Time as well.
I used them for a concert, which turned out to be a really convenient move now in the whole scheme of things, where we're going to see that concert. So yeah. It's not just people hear the word Game Time and they associate it with sports. Mm-hmm. Understand it's all encompassing. Like you said, plays, music, concerts, use it for everything. You'll be glad you did.
Yep. Download the Game Time app today, create an account and use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is the best place to buy all of your Auburn swag. I got this hat from Alumni Hall.
I just
a lot of you guys comment about it.
5 minutes ago from there.
What'd you get?
I got my new granddaughter, like this Albie. You know how little babies wear bows? Not a bow, but like a headband.
Sure.
5 minutes ago. Didn't even know we were doing the ad, and I've just hit the order button. And
so you went online. You went to alumnihall.com.
I did, and I got it shipped to my daughter's address in my granddaughter's name. Yep.
Insane. Yeah, because look, we love Alumni Hall. I spend a lot of money at Alumni Hall. So you should too. They've got 3 great physical locations, one in Auburn, one in Opelika, one in Huntsville. And of course, you also can go to alumnihall.com like Darrell did and get it shipped to you or shipped to a loved one or whoever, or me. You can ship it to me if you want. So alumnihall.com or any of the 3 great physical locations at Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. Number 3 on our list of players that can take a huge step forward after spring break. We started with Cam Coleman. Percy Lewis was 2. Number 3, a guy that you just mentioned, Jiren Thompson, the transfer safety from Texas. It's a guy I heard a lot of good things about. I believe Hugh Freeze even answered a question about him at his presser this past Thursday, but really, really smart player, really gets it between the ears, a guy that can play close to the line of scrimmage or off ball, depending on how they ask him and how they choose to use him in 2024 in this DJ Durkin defense. There's a lot of upside with Jiren Thompson, and he's kind of flying under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, either any way you look at it, whether Sylvester Smith, Jiren Thompson, Laquan Robinson, you're going to have a new safety, a couple new safeties back there on the back end. You know how important it is, Zach, for safeties from a communication standpoint, get people lined up right, kind of be the quarterback of the secondary and make sure people that's why I love him and his role and his veteran experience. I think that not only is he physically really gifted and played and started at a school like Texas, I think that the football acumen is really going to play well with Auburn having a young safety like Sylvester Smith, a new guy like Laquan Robinson. I believe that that's going to be invaluable, and that's why I think he's such an important portal piece.
Yeah, Terrence Love in that room too, another young guy. You know how I feel about Terrence Love?
You love him.
I love him. I love him. But I think Jiren Thompson, the way people talk about him is like it's like he's been here for a long time. It sounds
that's
like
what it's going to feel like. I think I think he's going to be one of those guys that makes an immediate impact, and you feel like he's played there all along. He's been in orange and blue for his whole career, and he's going to really, I don't know, kind of endear himself to the Auburn fan base.
I see a little bit of people are going to roll their eyes at this, but I see a little bit of Smoke Monday with him. Take out all the targeting jokes, please. Let's move the targeting stuff. But as far as
he's a little better. I think he's a little bit underrated from a speed standpoint in coverage. He gets a knack of not having elite cover speed, but he's so good in positioning and breaking down quadrants of the field that he gets in the right spot, and he's not slow at all. So I think he's a little better cover guy. But again, his quadrants.
He wasn't asked to do that a lot at Texas. I mean, they used him as kind of a thumper pretty consistently. But I agree with you. I think he understands where he's supposed to be. That's just not necessarily how he was used at Texas. They had other guys back there in order to do that.
I just watched a game where he had an interception or maybe even 2, but he had like a couple pass deflections. He just seemed to be like Jalen Simpson was. I'm not comparing the two. He's bigger. He's more physical.
Yeah, Jalen's a lot more rangy too.
Yeah. And and as far as a little bit more of a ball hawk. But I think he's Auburn fans are going to love this guy in the back end.
I think he's going to be solid in pass coverage. I think he's going to be really good in run support. That's kind of what I meant by smoke, and just like a larger safety that's not going to shy away from contact. So absolutely. All right, our next defender, Jiren Thompson, is number 3. Our next player, which is also a defender who could take a massive step after spring break, Malik Blockton, now friend of the show. Malik Blockton. I just think the battle between him, we assume it's the battle between him and Gage Keys for that defensive tackle spot.
Yeah, I tell you, I think one of the things about that is that a lot of times you hear a brother like Marcus Harris say, hey, this guy's going to be really, really good, or his coach who talked him up to us big time. And you kind of take that with a grain of salt because, like, of course his coach is going to say that. Of course his blood relative is going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm hearing other people now, teammates, observers from the sidelines, coaches off the record go, we're going to be able to keep this dude off the field. Not going to be able to keep this dude off the field. And again, we talked about a couple months ago, he has the frame, Zach, where he can add some weight and add some bulk. So I think the flexibility there with Malik Blockton is something to be excited about.
Well, Malik talked about it when he came on the show earlier this week. He's like, I'm going to be 300 pounds and I'm not going to look like it because I can move so well. It's like, sweet.
That's crucial.
I'm fired up. I mean, you want that in my veins.
300 pounds pushes the pile and is quick enough to get in the gaps.
Demands more blocks too, which frees up linebackers and other guys.
Yeah, and I feel like Jason Jones is going to require some double teams too. I can just see him getting a lot of the focus double teamed on him. And so whether it's Keys or Blockton or a guy like Falk coming off the edge, if you engage and you have a couple of, center and a guard locking you down, those gaps, man, that's where he's going to eat. So I'm looking forward to that. But it all starts with Jason kind of being disruptive enough where they have to focus on him.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, just something that stood out talking to Malik. I mean, I'd ask him just kind of a generic question, and he just wants to talk scheme. Like, he wants to talk football. Like, he wants to just get into it. He gets it. I think he gets he approaches the game from a place of high football IQ, which I think is going to be valuable. So
I was told that anytime the defense gave up a big play or gave up a big drive, when they got to the sidelines, that Malik Blockton was the one gathering up the rest of the defensive staff on the sideline in a huddle and letting them know what they needed to do and what they did wrong. That he was like a natural-born leader for that defense. It was getting in some tail about, hey, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. That he was the focal point on the sidelines for doing that. That's what I was told. So
it's kind of wild. After talking to him and getting to know him a little bit, that makes sense. All right, our fifth guy, as far as a player that could take a step forward after spring break, is Austin Keys, which obviously the linebacker who played for DJ Durkin before. Is there any chance, Darrell, that his relationship with DJ Durkin and his knowledge of the scheme, and I think he's got I think he's pretty athletic too, but is there any way he becomes linebacker one, or is Eugene Asante have that firmly in hand? What do you think?
It's going to sound like such a cowardly answer, but I think he could, but it's a 1A, 1B scenario. Here's why. If Austin Keys would have been healthy and played the whole year last year, I think he would have been ahead of the curve where he finished up. We saw he was playing catch up. So I think you give him a whole year last year and those two would have been comparable. Now you give him a spring and a scheme with a dude that he knows and is familiar with. Yeah. That's not out of the question at all. It's the physicality. To me, and again, I don't have the measurables in front of me. It seems to me like Keys is a little bit smaller than Eugene Asante as far as physical traits, height, weight. But Keys is so stinking fast in coverage and getting that stupid cast off his arm and having a whole year. And with Durkin, terminology, familiarity, how he loves him, that's not far-fetched at all. He could. And that's not a knock on Eugene Asante. That's just the ascension that Keys could take.
Yeah, once again, talking about the fact that it's another position group where it's a bunch of guys. It's like if they don't step up, they'll lose their job. Instead of a year ago begging for somebody to step up, and now it's like
anybody. Yeah,
it's like Eugene Asante, Austin Keys, Dorian Mausi. It's a good situation.
And the freshmen are going to push some of these guys too. I know that you alluded to something which was such a little nug. That I think you mentioned something that, some of the guys that are the incumbents were really not feeling pushed yet by some of the new guys, which is great. That's there, but that will change. I think that will change after spring ball. When we get into the fall, I think some linebackers are going to push some incumbent linebackers and get them a little worried about staying in their starting role. That's my prediction.
Yeah. And I think where it's going to really impact is that second tier of linebacker, like Wesley Steiner or Woodyard, those kind of guys. It's like if they pass them, what does that mean for them? Do they stay? So we'll see. All right, there are a few guys that we wanted to put on this list, but we couldn't fit them into our top 5 players that could take a big step after spring break. And we'll discuss who those guys are and maybe why they didn't crack the top 5 in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Darrell, can you imagine buying auto parts from somewhere other than eBay Motors?
No, it's a hassle.
Yeah, just have it shipped straight to your door. Passion, drive, patience is what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. They have over 122 million parts for your car, Darrell. 122 million. That almost doesn't seem like a real number. Mm-mm. But they've got your eBay guaranteed fit, which means your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Darrell, our honorable mention list of the players that could take a huge step forward after spring break. Sam Jackson was a name that you mentioned pretty much instantly when you and I were kind of game planning today's show. I'm still not there on Sam Jackson. And in fact, I'm almost a little confused with how they're choosing to use him. Week 1, sure, add the caveat, it's week 1 of spring practice. But it sounds like they put him at outside wide receiver more than anywhere else. It's a little surprising to me. Usually when you think, former quarterback transitioning to a skill position type situation, you think of a gadget guy. That's not what an outside wide receiver typically is. And he was rotating in with Cam Brown. And those aren't it's not a similar type of player. So I don't get it. I can't wait to see how they use Sam Jackson, but I'm just not quite there where you are with Sam Jackson yet.
I would have thought that they would have used him in the slot more
Same.
than they would have used him outside. The fact that they're using him outside makes me even more excited. Tells me he's more versatile than they thought. You wouldn't put him outside if you didn't think that he had the kind of speed to get separation. I know his size could be an issue, but remember, if Derek Nix is pretty good at route scheming and route running, and I'm not talking about 50-50 balls, but you can still have an outside receiver that's got a ton of speed that can get by people. And then it doesn't matter how big you are if you're past somebody. If you're looking at him 5 yards behind you, he's got really good speed, very good athleticism. I suspect the coaching staff felt like, hey, this dude's a pretty good route runner. And a lot of times, Zach, you see former quarterbacks that trait is inherent because they know as a quarterback where the receiver's supposed to be and what route they're supposed to run. So that translates to when they're a receiver. I bet that's the reason why they moved him outside, probably trying a couple different things. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back inside, but don't underestimate his route running abilities and his speed because he played the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it looks like. So in the spring, I think it makes sense, but it's like, would you rather a target go to Sam Jackson or a target go to Perry Thompson?
Well, that's the difference. When Perry Thompson and those dudes come on campus, probably he'll move back inside. He may be doing that right now.
Then why put him at the outside receiver if that's not where you think he's going to play?
Because of depth, and if there's an injury, and it's nice to know that a guy could play that position if he had to move. I really believe that. The versatility, when you're talking about a guy that played quarterback that's moving to receiver, he's already got a tinge of versatility in him anyway because he's playing a different position. It's not that much of a leap to have him go from outside to inside or back and forth. The dude's apparently really, really smart, and to get into Cal, you better be. And so I think that's the reason. I think they see some things in him and football IQ that can make him a little bit versatile, not just be a gadget guy.
All right, let's talk about another guy who's played a lot of college football and is very smart. Dorian Mausi. We talked about him a second ago with the linebackers, but DJ Durkin is a linebackers guy, and we've seen during his stint at Texas A&M, guys really benefited from that and put guys into the league. And Dorian Mausi, he's played a ton of football, Darrell, and I just think this could be a guy that DJ Durkin really, really likes and is going to get his hands on him and be able to kind of mold him into what they need him to do from the linebacker spot. I do think he's going to be the third linebacker right now. I've gone back and forth between Keys and Mausi as that number 2 linebacker. Right now, I've got Keys ahead of him, but I wouldn't be shocked if they found a really solid role for Mausi. And once again, he's played a ton of college football. I'm sure there is going to be an adjustment period, but once he kind of turns the corner with that, he could be an impact guy.
One of the things I like about the players that we're mentioning, number one, we're talking a lot about coaches, this common theme of smart, heady football players, high football IQ. When you talk about Thompson, Jackson, and now Mausi. You know, the other theme that I really, really like, they all three come from Power 5 schools.
Right.
There was a trend to go get the group of 5 guys, and I get that, but I like the fact that Thompson came from Texas. Mausi's a Duke guy and played a lot at Duke. Very smart, kind of like a leader on defense. I don't know from a physical attributes where he'll fit in as far as a niche. Is he going to be able to cover tight ends downfield? Is he a run thumper? I'll tell you this much. I know that the coaching staff already has said good things about him and how quickly he picks things up. I think that, yeah, he probably will end up being linebacker 3. But the reason why I'm okay with that is because I think that's what he was brought in to be. I don't think the expectation was we're going to bring this guy in to unseat Asante or Keys, but he's a nice luxury to have in that 3 spot.
Yeah. Then the last guy, and this may surprise some folks, and it's actually surprised me a little bit, pleasant surprise, but Coy Moore. Coy Moore, a guy that a lot of us, myself included, kind of wrote off, but I've heard good things about Coy Moore in the first week. Small sample size, we'll see what happens, but I even wrote down, in my notebook in that 20-minute media viewing window that we had, that Coy Moore had some pop. He showed some burst, and he missed some of the offseason a year ago because of injuries. Maybe that lingered into the season. I don't know, but to me, he showed some burst, and I've heard good things about Coy Moore. I'm excited to see what exactly could come from that. Charlie Five talked about how he was told that he caught a touchdown pass in practice. So, Coy Moore, another guy's like, could he put it all together? You got to think he's feeling somewhat pushed by the guys that they brought in. Does he live up to the billing or not?
2 things are the greatest motivators that you can have in sports. Number 1 is the ability to stay off the bench and get playing time. And you just alluded to it with these freshmen coming in. He's looking over his shoulder and he's going, I better step up my game. And sometimes that's all it takes. The second thing is when you get better coaching, and your coaching can motivate you. And I think we all agree that Derek Nix, again, from being a receivers coach and how these players love him, can probably do some things to help his game.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't think that's a stretch at all. I look to see some improvement from him.
Yep. All right. If you tuned in expecting some basketball discussion, don't worry. It's already up both on YouTube and on this podcast feed. Darrell and I went live right after Auburn's game against Missouri last night. So be sure to check that out. And Darrell, how else can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X. It stayed up today and didn't go down or yesterday. So DAP 6410. You can follow me, and then Wednesdays and Fridays with you on Locked on Auburn, and after every postcast Auburn basketball game live.
Yep. Follow me on socials at Blackerby. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow. This has been Locked on Auburn.